world and coming to a foreign country. And I commend for your courage. And I'm assuming that all of you have this calling in your heart. So otherwise, you can't do this kind of work, and definitely in a strange country and with strangers. So yeah, you're all very special. And I'd like to share the screen. Okay. And we shall do this. Okay. All right, something is not working. Okay. Why does it not work? Margareta, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here and I opened the settings.
Okay, so I don't know why it's not. Because I want to see everyone as well. So, okay. Okay. So I think now it will be okay.
Yeah, it's about to open.
Okay, so now we're good. Okay, good. So if everyone can see the screen, today I want to talk about culture, values, and the relationship with the elderly patient. You know, it would be nice if later on in a little bit we can share a little bit of everyone's experience. And since we don't know each other, and hopefully you'll get to know one another as well, this is kind of a very strange situation that everyone is in all over the world, and also you with this corona and you having to be in quarantine. So it's like an in-between time. Left all of your life and worries and, well, maybe not worries, but all of your life behind and beginning a new adventure, so to speak. And so this is an in-between time and an opportunity to make friends perhaps and build relationships with people in a similar situation as you are. And also we'd like to take advantage of the time that you have now in the next couple of days in order to speak about important issues that are part of the caregiving work. And of course, as caregivers, we all know that our most important tools in our toolbox is our personality. And if we develop our personality and all of the important traits that makes us a better person, then of course we are also a better caregiver. And so today we have a presentation about some very important issues that we feel are important in order to make us more minded of how we can do our job much better. So basic values in caregiving work. This is the subject for the next hour or so. Then we'll have a short break in about half hour, 40 minutes, and then we will continue to some other things. So what are the basic values in the caregiving work? Human dignity, autonomy, tolerance, empathy, compassion, and of course, care. All of those subjects are very important and are, part of our toolbox as caregivers, as professionals. So what do these values mean in caregiving work? Well, human dignity, value that refers to a person's unique trait as a person. Dignity is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake and to be treated ethically. Respect your patient's humanity, privacy, thoughts, feelings, opinion, beliefs, and body. Maintain your patient's privacy and dignity. Well, I'd like to expand on that a little bit because basically, we are going into a stranger's home, into his safe place, his safe domain, where he has usually control of things, and a person that's, strange the way he looks, strange the way he speaks, different culture. And you have to be minded of the fact that it's usually very stressful for the client as well as for you in the beginning of this interaction. And so respecting a person's privacy and humanity, well, all of those things are something that takes a while to get to know a person and to understand, who they are and what's important to them and what their sensitivities are and so on. So it's very important to be minded of the fact that he is just as stressed as you are. Even though, perhaps the family or the client is in very, very much needs the assistance of having someone come and live with them. But you must understand that for most of your clients, it's going to be a very new experience in the sense that perhaps they've had people caring for them in their personal way, bathing them, doing cleaning in the home, cooking, and so on, and assisting them in their daily activities. But perhaps this is the first time that someone has actually come to live with them. And for many people, this is a very, very critical point in life, because perhaps up until now, they've sort of had the fantasy that things would get better and their life would continue the way it has been. But usually when you have a caregiver come into the home, it's kind of a crisis for them as well, because that, kind of tells the person that, yes, they are no longer able to be assisted, with family and so on. And now they have to have this kind of assisted living. So you have to be minded that for them, it is also very, very, important and a special time. You all know that today is the eve of a Jewish holiday. We call it Yom Kippur. Perhaps you've already checked on the internet a little bit about the holidays, and you know that this whole month is kind of geared for holidays. Yom Kippur especially is, when people are introspective and try to give it, how should we say it, reckonance for who they are, what they're all about, what's life, what their life is all about. And so this kind of resonance into the next few weeks as well. And I think that the holidays you may also experience in general is a very stressful time in everyone's life. It's, for yourself, you kind of miss your family and your friends, people who are alive, people who aren't with you anymore, people that, perhaps you yourself are kind of in a mourning state of what you were once, how things were, who sat at your table during holidays and who didn't, and so on. So it's usually a very stressful time for the patients, for the clients. I always like to think of them as clients as well, not just patients, and also for their family. Autonomy. Autonomy is the capacity to make and uncoerced decisions, self-direct and freedom, especially moral independence. Give your patient the right to choose what he prefers to do, where he wants to go, and allow him to make his own decisions. Autonomy. This is a definite struggle that people that have, any kind of disability or loss in terms of physical or mental or emotional functioning, this is like a continuous struggle to be very independent, to be autonomous, to be able to control their, their environment, and some of this, will definitely affect the way that you interact with your client. So it's very important that you don't overdo the niceness. In other words, allow people to do whatever they can. It takes time to learn, what their abilities are, what their disabilities are, what their limitations are. But, encourage your client and patient to do as much as they can whenever they can, especially in controlling their environment and situation. This is very important. If you are, after a while, you're more familiar with their limitations, and you think that Perhaps they're not making choices that are at their best interest. Perhaps they're even maybe dangerous to them, to them or to others. Then you must involve the family and someone else in order to change, the situation. But as much as possible, you should always be minded to allow your client and patient to choose where he eats, what he eats, how often he eats, and how he's dressed, and where you're going, and how to build the day, and so on. Very important. Tolerance. Oh, this is a key word. Very important. Toleration is allowing and permitting the acceptance of an action, idea, object, or person, which one can sometimes dislike or disagree with. So that's what makes us professionals, putting what we think and how we respond on the side. And there's a time and place for our response, but accepting, our clients or the family or situations around us in a professional way, that means that we don't respond on the automatic. We respond when it's appropriate, and so on. Be tolerant of your patient and give yourself time to get to know each other, even if you don't agree with him, and sometimes or always respect him. It's very important that you understand how, it's like a culture clash at the beginning, for sure. And Israelis, you may have already heard about this, they're very passionate in the way they speak, usually using a lot of, a loud tone of voice, and being very direct, and using a lot of hand and body gestures. And sometimes someone who doesn't understand the language or the culture may think, oh, why are they fighting? Why are they, being so aggressive towards each other? But in the end, it turns out that this is just the way, people communicate. And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily angry. They're just very, with a lot of passion in the way that they relate their ideas and feelings. So don't be quick to judge until you know and understand. And of course, the language is also very important. So to be tolerant of a different person's, perspective is very important, especially, in the beginning. You want to learn about your patient or your client. You want to hear his stories. Most people that live in Israel have also been immigrants. They've come from somewhere else. Israel is a young country. And, of course, there are people that have lived here all their life, many generations, but most people haven't. And so they have a whole story of where they come from, different cultures, Asia, Africa, Americas, and they speak many languages and have different cultures. And sometimes they're not. I don't know how familiar or unfamiliar you are with Jewish culture, but you must also know that every single family does, the holidays and the culture in a very different way. Similar, but also different. So tolerance is very, very important. And I think that it's also important that you must, be aware of the fact that the client or the family may sometimes be not so tolerant of you, you being strange, different sounds, different smells, different actions. And so, body language and so on, the way you respond or don't respond to situations. So being open-minded and, just aware that the other people around you are also not understanding your cues, very important to be tolerant. Empathy. Empathy is what we all have to be. Empathetic. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within his frame of reference. That is, the capacity to place oneself in another's position. Try to empathize with your patient's physical and emotional condition. Sometimes this is very difficult when you're coming from a different culture. Obviously, you don't know what his past in his life, what his story is, what his, what your client or the entire family's, what they're people that have lost in their life and so on. And of course, being empathetic to someone's physical pain or, physical loss is something that is sometimes easier than to be empathetic towards their emotional and psychological state. But to empathize, to try to understand what a person is, feeling or undergoing, I think this is something very important to be minded of. and compassion, sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering of misfortunes of others. Compassion motivates people to go out of their way to help physical, mental, and emotional pains of another person. I assume that you all have quite a bit of compassion. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chosen this profession and wouldn't have put yourself in a situation where you're doing it so far away from home and from your own culture and family. But nonetheless, it is one of the very important tools in our toolbox. And even though we have it, we must be minded of the fact that it is very important, very important. All of that is part of the care that we do, part of our work, the provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, and maintenance and protection of someone or something. And this is our job, to take care of someone, his physical, his emotional, and of course, his well-being in altogether. I would really like for all of you to join us in a short discussion. It would be very nice if we kind of got to hear everyone's, or at least some of you, your opinion of the things that I've spoken about, what you think, in your opinion, is the most important value in caregiving work. And are there any other values you believe that are important in caregiving work? And it would be nice if has anyone here in the group with us been a caregiver abroad, out of the Philippines before? How about sharing with us? Anyone showing a hand? Anyone?
Sarah suggests maybe to stop share screen for a few minutes, and then we'll be able to see each other.
Oh, okay, good. Right, I didn't see everyone before. So, Brian, how about you? Have you been out of the Philippines as a caregiver before? Put your mic on, Brian. I can't hear you.
It's actually my first time.
First time. Okay, yes. So welcome. And Winnie, how about you? Have you been outside of the Philippines?
No, ma'am, this is my first time to go abroad.
Oh, first time to go abroad together. Wow, big experience to be expected. Okay. Anyone been abroad before?
But did you, excuse me, Sarah, but did anyone worked as a caregiver in the Philippines? Not only abroad, but sometimes you work in your own country. Did anyone worked as a caregiver in the Philippines? No, doesn't look like.
Yes, I see. Desiree.
Huh?
Desiree,
Good.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you worked before as a caregiver?
Yes, I've been taking care of my patient for almost 4 years back in the Philippines before I came here in Israel.
Okay.
And then I am a caregiver for almost 8 years now.
Okay, so you have a lot of experience, but in the Philippines. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Jenny, how about you? Have you had experience as a caregiver?
No, I actually have experience with my mom since she was already a senior citizen, or she was already belonging to a geriatric already. So that's the only experience I have.
Okay, that's good experience. Taking care of a mom is experience. Okay. Were you the only one, or were there other family members involved?
I was the only one because I'm in the family that I was in a medical field.
Okay. Okay. So you have medical training?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Ray, how about you? Have you had any experience before?
Yes, ma'am. Before, I worked in Taiwan for 6 years, but not related in medical. But before I go abroad, I work in hospital for 6 years in internal medicine, dialysis technician, and general ICU, and operating room.
You're trained as a nurse?
Not really, but a nursing attendant.
Nursing attendant. Okay, so you've been abroad and also, but not connected. Your experience in abroad. What were you working at in the?
But
when-
before I apply in caregiver for Israel, I work in a big hospital, a tertiary hospital in our country.
In the Philippines.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Catherine, would you like to share your experience as a caregiver?
No, mom, I don't have any experience in caregiving. My only experience was when I took care of my blind grandmother who has a dementia. So
That's a lot of experience. How long were you caring for your grandmother?
it's almost 3 or 4 years.
Hmm. Okay. And she is also blind and also has dementia.
Yes,
Okay.
mom.
So you've experienced that. Okay. So Israel is a whole new can of beans for everyone. Okay. You're in for an adventure. Hold on tight. Okay. But I think that it's going to be a good adventure for everyone. And yes, anyone like to comment about the values that I've presented in on the screen? You know what I talked about: compassion and care. Would anyone like to comment on that?
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yes,
For
right.
me, you have to love your work, and as a ex-OFW, you have to respect your client all the time and a lot of patience, patient for them, and treat us as your own family. For me, so you can work for long many years.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right. You have to have it in your heart. I think so too, you know, because it's my calling. It's always been my calling. I've been a caregiver for many years in different capacities. And, you know, about treating people like your family, I have mixed feelings about that. I think of my work as a profession, and I do it with my whole heart and soul. Family, sometimes, not always. You know, it's also good to put, you know, to put some borders. We'll talk, you know, in the future about, you know, borders, where we begin, where our family is, where our friends are. And, you know, this is a very different situation, being a live-in caregiver, unlike working in a hospital. Every day you go home and then, you know, you put like a shut the window and you have some other space and time, you know, you can do that differentiation. But when you're a caregiver, you know, and you're living in a strange country with a person 24 hours a day, it involves a lot of, you know, an ability to put borders, you know, where you begin, where your job begins, where you are. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes as well. Okay. Anyone else like to comment? Pua, that's a nice name. Is that, am I, or is it Leanne? Which one? Is,
It's
what is,
Liam.
it's Leanne. Okay, Leanne, okay. How about you?
I
Would you
just-
like to share something with us?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to share my experience abroad. Yeah, I went to the United Kingdom 2009 and I worked there for 8 years. I work in the nursing home for elderly people and for dementia unit and the nursing unit. And also after in a nursing home, I transferred to agency and the agency gave me work to work as a live-in carer. So I live with a Jewish couple in Stanmore, England, London. So I live with them for, like you said, 24 hours a day for 6 days, and I have a 1 day off for a week. So I've got a lot of experience for caregiving, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, so you know about that. Okay, so London is a nice place to live, and you're already a little familiar with Jewish tradition, perhaps, and Jewish people. And you're back again, so it
Yes.
must have been okay.
Yeah.
It was good. It was okay.
Yeah. It was
Okay, it was
good.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, but it's very different than working in an institution or for family. That's
Yes,
very
yes.
true. Okay, what makes it? What makes it? What was the hardest part, Leanne? Perhaps you'd like to share. What was the hardest part to be a live-in?
Yeah, sometimes you're filled up, you're confined in one house for 6 days and 24 hours. But I have also breaks 2 hours a day.
Okay.
And when you're sleeping during the night, my client have this bell and have to
Okay.
any time of the day, any time of the night. So I have to wake up and go and look what was the problem. And that's the hardest part. Like you can't sleep soundly, like straight for 8 hours during the night.
Okay.
You're worried. Maybe they're going to call you again, something might happen.
So
So
you
that's
were being on call all the time.
Yeah.
It kind of puts tension into your, into your space. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And what was the part that you loved the most?
Well, this couple I worked before likes to go out during the day. So we are looking forward to going out to shops, to the park, to go to the malls, that's what. And then we go out also to eat. And also I'm looking forward on a Friday evening.
Okay.
For that.
What was Friday evening like? They had family meal?
Yes, ma'am. They have family meal and they have this long course of food. That's what I like. Starting Kodesh wine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like Friday evenings, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Cool.
you enjoyed joining in their life of, enjoying London altogether, all that it had to offer.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Leanne. That's very
You're welcome.
nice. Okay. Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll continue in 5 minutes.
All right,
Good
ma'am.
idea. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Continuing, I'd like to speak a little bit about other important issues. Okay, everyone with me? Gender aspects in caregiving work. Okay, I think it was Leanne that mentioned, right? You told us about your experience in London with the family, and you were taking care of a couple. Maybe one was the designated care, a care person that person that needed the care, but very often, it's a couple. Perhaps your client will have a husband or a wife. Perhaps there is a son or a daughter living with the family, but it's never really just one person. Well, maybe not never, but very often there is a family involved. And I'd like to speak a little about gender aspects. First of all, we're all either men or women, but in Israel, that other options are possible, and we are a very open culture for that. If anyone has other, how should we say it, ways of living their life, not just in one type of gender or another. But the families are, I would say, traditional, and And we must be minded about, how gender issues are in our community and how people relate to us and how we provoke or not intentionally evoke responses. So I'd like to discuss that a little bit, and perhaps you would also ask questions and share. You're of course welcome to share and ask questions about anything and everything at any time. You can write it on the on your responses. There's a place to share,
Share.
and then we can share, right? We can talk about that in a little bit as well. So a few facts about gender and care. First of all, although most of the caregivers are women, there are also many men who are caregivers. We know that. Some of the female caregivers provide care for a man or live with them, with a care person that has a man living in their home. And some of the male caregivers provide care for women or have women living in the home where they are caring. How does this gender contribute to the caregiving relationship? Although women usually take care of children, adults, parents, spouses, and family members, there are also men who have these abilities. Women naturally have the ability to care for others with empathy, compassion, concern, and love, but men can do so also. Your caregiving qualities are an asset. Be proud of them and your caregiving abilities to provide. I want to talk about that you have to be very minded that something who you are, healthy young man or woman coming into a home where that already changes in a situation. Sometimes, it even can jealousy and other responses because you are who you are, will touch, provoke, and in a more gentle with them, that it has no intentions of being any kind of a sexual relationship or anything like that. And also in terms of the spouse, husband, wife, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, that you are there to be a good caregiver. And part of that is being gentle and sweet and nice and touching people in very private places and in a very, intimate way, taking care of them. But of course, no sexual connotation is intended. And you must be very firm about that. If you feel that you're being misunderstood in any way, in the way that the situation is being perceived, then you must be very direct and very strong-minded about it. Because if you're shy and you become timid and you become frightened, your response may be misunderstood for agreeing to the continuation. This kind of of reaction. Okay. Gender issues. When treating a man or being close to a patient or a spouse, sexual harassment can occur, and it's important to be on this YouTube film that may be helpful if you encounter it in order to understand how to respond. But again, I stress, just your energy, just you being young and healthy and your abilities to do things can also provoke jealousy. Oh, she's cooking better than I'm cooking. She's taking better care of my husband. Oh, he smiles at her. He doesn't smile at me anymore. All kinds of responses that, you have no intention of having any kind of, negative intentions, and still the response may be there. But being minded of them and taking responsibility to try to alleviate this kind of, negative response with compassion, with understanding, is part of the job. It really is part of the job. So if you have any concerns about being a man or a woman as a caregiver, and you have any kind of concerns about, if it's easier or harder for a man or for a woman, and if you think caregiving is, something that's, whatever you think, we'd like to hear. And this is a time to share. Anyone like to respond? Anything on chat, Margareta?
No,
No.
not yet, but
Not yet.
let's just
Okay.
process, digest the question.
Okay.
Or if you want, maybe we'll again stop
In a few minutes, we'll stop.
sharing.
Okay. So, an intercultural encounter, that's what you're on. You're on a roller coaster for an intercultural encounter. except for the one lady that told us that she has worked for a Jewish family before. So intercultural differences are differences in traditions, food, norms, beliefs, values, which, vary between nations, people, ethnic groups, and different languages, of course. Every culture has its own way of expressing itself. Every culture has its own way of defining conflict, passing messages, resolving conflict, and talking about it. Every culture has its own way to express emotions and to talk about them. So again, I want to say that, very direct, usually very loud, use the gestures. And here's one right now. Now, look at what I'm doing. I go like this. And if everyone's to do, everyone wants to join, them are not so nice, but this one is a nice one. Okay.
I think we need to practice exercise this.
Rega, rega. All right.
Rega,
rega.
Rega.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Yes. Always smile. How about a smile, everyone? That's international. Smiling is international. If someone has a really big, warm-hearted smile, it means everything. And you say rega rega, then you. Okay, how to adjust to a new culture, be patient, and give yourself time. Very important. Give yourself time and be patient with yourself, that you keep your culture and customs and traditions. And of course, there's another YouTube film here that you can watch on your own time that may give you some helpful suggestions. But you must understand that you'll be on a learning curve. Yes, every day you'll be learning. Take a notebook, write down 10 new words in Hebrew every day, even 5, and practice them. And I think that, the family that you're going to be working with or your client is going to enjoy being, the teacher, the one that, that's in control of the situation. Gives a person a feeling of control and, but you must understand that even some of the families that you may be working with, Israel is a very varied country. They may not know English. They may not even know Hebrew really well. I mean, they could be Russian immigrants. They could be Arabic or French speakers. All kinds of languages in Israel are spoken. And so whatever language you need to learn, in addition to Hebrew, make a notebook and learn 5 new words every day. Very important. Okay. So this is a good time to share with us, besides, what we already know about Israel, what you've heard, what Israel, Jewish people, how it's going to be to adjust. Any questions that you have? Holidays, Shabbat, whatever, weather, love, whatever questions you have, you're very welcome.
And Sarah has a very favorite topic, politics.
Oh yes, politics. Oh yeah. We love to talk about politics. Turn on the Israeli television, all of them, all day long. They cook and they talk about politics, which is what they do. Anyone have any questions? Ray, how about you? Anything you want to ask us?
Nothing, ma'am. Thank you.
Nothing now. Okay. Anyone?
I'm just, Sarah, can you please remind, there was a question about gender things, and I think it's actually important question for, for us also to think, because you're gonna face it very soon. Yeah, some of you might need to take care of an elderly, female caregivers might need to take care of male elderly, and also happen And you can also, even if you're taking care of, the same gender client, then you can have a husband, a spouse who's the opposite gender, and then still have. So those of you who had some experience, you can share, if you had any, and how you dealt with this, and maybe any advice that you can share. So it would be nice to hear you on this issue and on this topic, because Sarah asked and I said, yeah, you didn't start to answer immediately, so I said you need to digest. But it's an important question for you to think to process, yeah, to think, to even not maybe sharing with us right now, but just to think, how you're going to deal with this, how you're going to, what would be your, I don't know if there will proper word strategy, but how you will, how you will manage this. Sam, just please, if you allow me one more thing. Also, something that you didn't ask but was asked by previous groups, and I think it's a worthwhile question also to discuss with you as well. We were often asked by different groups actually about specifics related to culture, to religion, to tradition of Jewish life, Jewish clients, related to kitchen, related to holidays, how things being kept by religious families, for example. And means I always provide with answers that it's not something that you can be prepared 100%. It's not the right answer on the book. We can show some background information, and you can also search by yourself online. As internet is a fantastic word from this point of view. Everything is accessible, but it wouldn't say how. Still, it wouldn't provide you answer how things will work in a specific household, and how things and how this person will prefer do things in his or her way, and what it expects from you to do, because related to the kitchen, I'm sure that I think it maybe actually mentioned before, but still since then we didn't discuss with Sarah. I'm sure that me and her, we are handling things differently in our kitchens. Maybe something we do similar way, some things we do very different way, and all this can be still in the inside of rules of Jewish law, for example, yeah, of kashrut. So still something that you will need to find out and ask people, your clients that you taking care of. And the same thing I would say, just generally speaking, and about rituals, what you are expected to do, because in some families, people to do things that they cannot do. For example, to turn on off the light, that's which, and in some families, the requirement would be the opposite: just not touch it, and in the common spaces, and not do that. So it is very important that you will communicate about these things with your client. If there are some important things or values for you, you can also see and think, consider when you can share and tell them about your culture, about your rituals. It's good, would be good for you to know, to get to know each other. But in terms of assistance with in for your client within their lives, within their preferences, the rituals, it's very important for them and for you that you will ask, and because for them sometimes that they can even not remember, because for them it's natural, they do things this way, and sometimes it seems that everybody knows it, but no, you don't know, you're a new person in the household, and just tell them that you want to learn, that you want to assist in the best way, and ask them to tell you how they prefer things to be done, and what they expect from you on this holiday, on that holiday, and hopefully then you will learn and who have a better communication. Yeah, that would be my addition to the previous topic. on culture.
Thank you, Margareta. Yes, it's very important to, to understand that every family deals with tradition and holidays in a different, not completely different, but in their own way. And so being on a learning curve and smiling a lot and asking questions is, is the best way. And like Margareta said, some things are obvious to, to people that this is their daily life, but not obvious to you, being stranger, different culture, and so on and so forth. So good thing is to ask, always ask. Thank you, Margareta, for making that as an, to emphasize that. A lot of things to take into consideration, which is strange people's home, a lot of things. And I'd like to speak a little bit about building and developing the relationship with your client. This is our next subject. How do we go about building the relationship? Because without a relationship, we really can't be a professional caregiver. Our care is dependent on the trust and on the relationship that we build with our client. And this is the very first step. So what's involved in building a relationship? Creating good communication, coordination of expectations, trust, creating the caregiving alliance, and taking into account social and cultural components, which we tried to speak about just now. So all of those things, and I'd like to speak a little bit about each one of them. Perhaps we can talk about some of them today. And we're going to be meeting again on Monday, right, Margareta? So if we don't cover it all today.
No, Friday.
Friday. Oh, that's right, Friday. Okay, I got confused with all the holidays. Yes. So creating good communication. Okay, good communication. That's the number one step. And we're going to talk about the fact that there are 4 different types of communication styles. So a little bit of background. Every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact and exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles. It's kind of important to be able to understand each one of them and to perhaps identify them. And so there's, of course, the passive communication style, the aggressive communication style, passive aggressive, and the assertive. It's individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication, it incorporates the best aspect of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each style, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. And of course, it's a little bit difficult in 2 minutes to kind of go into these issues, but nonetheless, we'd like to mention them because if we're minded about, not just what we hear in terms of words, but also we're minded about the way is communicating to us and what is behind the words we communicate with others. I think that we're better able to understand a situation and perhaps even better able to control the way that we want the situation to continue. So what is the passive way, the type of communication? Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body posture, and inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states people never consider my feelings. And passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow the others, go with the flow. But usually they're very frustrated because they don't give themselves the opportunity to, to voice their thoughts and feelings. And so it might be easier, to not respond or to be passive, but it's also very easy to misunderstand a person who is passive. And sometimes if you don't respond, if you're a passive kind of communicator, you will be misunderstood and perhaps even taken advantage of. Aggressive communication, the aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud, demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, and dominating or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, or threatening or attacking them, among other traits. This obviously is not a very pleasant type of communication style, but sometimes we can encounter that. And so, if people are aggressive in their communication style, then we have to know how to deal with that and how to communicate with them, and not just to deal with the aggression or the anger perhaps that's behind it, but to try to change the atmosphere. Passive aggressive communicators. Passive aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within he or she may feel powerless or stuck, building up the resentment that leads to seething or acting out in subtle and indirect or secret ways. Most passive aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, even deny that there is a problem. These type of communicators are very difficult to deal with because they're secretive and they don't really show their real emotions. They're not very honest with the way they respond. And so it's very difficult to understand what they really want or what they really feel. And yes, we try to, to be. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, and feelings while also considering the needs of others. One of the keys to assertive communication is using I statements, such as I feel frustrated when you are late for a meeting, or I don't like having to explain this over and over. It indicates ownership of feelings and behaviors without blaming the other person. This is a very important way to communicate, to share what you feel, what you understand, what you think, and not to dominate the situation by, making the other person responsible for what is happening. Share what you feel. I feel that I want to emphasize that the way that we communicate, and we all know that, when you're in a foreign country, foreign culture, you may not even understand the cues that, what people are saying. Very important to be minded of how we express ourselves, okay? Especially when you are with a client that does not hear well, does not see well, does not, his senses, maybe his English, the language that you're trying to communicate with is not really his language. Very important to be minded of the gestures, the tones, and all of that is very part of the way that we communicate, and be very clear about what we say. So just to summarize, the passive type: emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. The passive aggressive is emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, and self-enhancing at the expense of others. The aggressive, inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. And the green one, the assertive, the one that we like to strive to be, is appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, empathetic to emotions of all involved. Tools for effective communication. Let's talk about that a little bit. Understanding how others communicate can be the key to getting your message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Take ownership. Use the I statement. Present yourself. Say what you think and what you mean, what you understand and what you don't understand. Maintain eye contact. Maintaining eye contact is very important. Not in every culture is it part of the communication that is considered. Sometimes people feel that, you know, if you look at a person, if that person has difficulty in understanding you and in communicating in general, that you look gently perhaps, and you say what you think, and you know, and you present yourself. Voice your needs and desires confidently. And of course, don't forget to smile. Of course, smile, 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 smile.
And another
Absolutely,
important
Irene, I see you smiling.
exercise on the sitting.
Absolutely, guys. Everybody needs a smile.
Marisa,
Leanne,
better
absolutely.
smile, please.
It opens up everyone's hearts when you have a
Right.
real, you know, heartwarming smile. How to deal with aggressive behavior or language. Okay, again, here's another YouTube presentation that you may look at if you have to deal with that. If your client is frustrated, angry, you know, even if you try to communicate and you don't really know how to deal with it, very important to, you know, to learn. Sometimes, you know, changing our way of communication changes the situation. And I want to stress, it is part of our responsibility as the caregiver to do that, to change the type of communication, to be in charge of the communication style. And of course, there's always the nonverbal communication, which is, you know, so important to be aware of when we have, you know, language issues or people that are in some way or in many ways limited by hearing or sight or, you know, or other types of communication. So along with the 4 communication styles, there is also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words from the spoken, written, or language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language. Clasped hands indicate closure, tone of voice, physical gestures, standing, touching. I like to use the example of, you know, of pets. I don't know if you have pets, but, you know, they really don't learn Philippines or Hebrew or English or Russian. The dogs learn to listen, or the cats learn to listen to the tone of our voice, to the rhythm of our voice, to the pitch of our voice, to the sounds that we make, and in the emotions that we project through those sounds. Okay, and of course they also see our facial expressions and body gestures, and I don't know, maybe they even smell our, you know, our endorphins. Our brain always, you know, projects things that we don't know. But my point is that, you know, it's not just animals that we communicate without language, it's each other that we communicate without language. And of course, touching, smiling, our tone of voice, our body language, it tells very often more than our words. And so the more we are minded of that, and also not just the way we express ourselves, but also the way the people around us express ourselves, right? So if someone is saying sweet words, but in a very tense way, we don't really believe them, do we? So the more we are minded of that, of our, you know, nonverbal communication, how important it is, the more we are able to be professionals in the way that we want to deal with things, right? Very important to be aware of that. Tools for effective communication. Active listening. Find out what your patient's opinions, thoughts, emotions, don't try to make any assumptions. And I would also say that don't try to make any judgments. You know, one of the things that is very important is not to judge people. We don't know, you know, what their life has been, what they've achieved, what their disappointments were, what their, you know, who the people in their life on, what issues they had to deal with. So we don't want to make any judgments. We see them at one point in life, sort of towards the end. And it's very important to try to know about their life before. Look around the room, look around their house, ask questions, ask to see family albums, ask, you know, about what kind of music they like, what were their hobbies in the past, what were their achievements, Corona has had such a difficult time for disabled people, being shut in, being introverted, being afraid not to be sick, not to be more disabled, not to be in touch with their children or grandchildren, not to be touched. Very important, tactile responses are very important to all of us. And so, many aspects as possible, their history, their stories, their families, and so on, through albums. Look around the house, check out the knickknacks. Where did you buy this? Where is this from? Tell the story, ask them to tell stories. Reflection, in order to make sure you understood what your patient meant, try to reflect that you understand what he has said by saying, I understand, I see that, and what do you mean? And sometimes it's also very, very helpful to repeat the words that they used when they're trying to say something, because that gives the person the affirmation that, okay, maybe not understood completely, but has been heard. Empathy, try to empathize with your patient, even if you don't agree with him. And the I message, again, the I message. When you talk about your opinions and thoughts, use the words I, okay? No absolute truths, use the word I. And I also want you not to be insulted and not to take things personally. If they criticize you, if you make mistakes, then you will be making mistakes, no doubt about it. But if you're honest and if you're, and you're emotionally open to change, then I think that will be perceived and it will be welcomed. Patience. All right, the key word in our profession, to be patient with your patient and his family, obviously. They don't come alone, like a bride, they come with the family. And this is sort of like a blind match, you're put in a situation and you have to take care of this person. So like an arranged marriage, but they come with the package, with the family. So you have to invest in learning about the family, who they are, who the important people are, and who could be, minded to hear you and to give you support if you need support. And, very often families can also, divide the duties of taking care of a client. Perhaps one person's in charge of finances, a different person is in charge of the health aspect, a different person may be in charge of, something else. And so get to know the family. When talking to a patient, maintain eye contact, try to speak at eye level, relax your speech, calm your tone of voice. Very important to, to have eye level. I want to stress that. I'm assuming that our clients, your clients, they're going to be sitting or laying down. And it's very annoying to, when someone is standing over you or trying to speak to you or trying to take care of you when they're on top of you or behind you or next to you. Always try to be at eye level. Take a chair and sit down. If they need to be fed, they need to be bathed, they need anything at all, eye level. Very important to be at eye level with your client, okay? So let's talk. Would be nice if people want to share a little bit about their experience. What is your communication style? What is your opinion? Is the best communication style? What to do with your client if he has a communication style that's difficult to handle? And any other question is welcome about any subject at all. We're here at your disposal to respond to whatever concerns you have about the subjects that, we've mentioned or other things that are, you're concerned about. And remember, you can always improve your communication and you're on a learning curve. Would anyone like to say something or write something? Questions, response? Okay, there are a few tips on this YouTube film for communicating with the elders. Margareta, there's
Yeah, I
something
think
you want to share?
Yeah, I just think and also remembering our previous cycle that we also needed to have this two topics together. I think it's good to stop here. If you can go back just one slide before. So maybe we will start our next meeting, online meeting on Friday, and would like to hear you, sharing with us your thoughts, answers, thoughts, maybe your questions related to that, to this topic that just started talk application style, and your preference, and things that you think you may have difficulty with, or the opposite is, you had in your life experience that had a difficulty, and then you find a way to deal with this style. So it would be great that we will start next meeting with to hear it from you. And yeah, if it's okay, also start with you. So we'll just maybe end here and continue
On Friday.
We'll start, yeah, continue on Friday. And also I just wanted to say general statement related to the program, to our today's schedule, which was quite busy because of the holidays, and I will need to, so because we cannot we can't be available, the way we would like to be available because of these holidays. So we also needed to change a little bit schedule of the program, but it is important for us to to let you some time to digest. So we will share with you in the group, as I said, links to register to the call center and records of our online meetings, and we'll also share with you a few records that we prepared for you with some topics. Take your time. I will put some information today, but we don't expect you to watch everything towards the end of the day. You have today, you have tomorrow, and you have the rest of the days to go back and to watch some of those materials that you won't have time to see before the meeting. So you will understand that you need still to process and to go back to specific records. So yeah, just for you to know, we'll push it at one piece. Put one piece today, but doesn't mean that we expect it to you, again, as I said, to watch it all today. Yeah, and have a restful 2 days, and we'll see you on Friday morning.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye for now. Yaakov, Machatima
Yeah,
Tova,
goodbye, everyone.
Margareta.
Bye.
Yeah,
Machatima
thank you,
Tova.
everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
Friday
Let's say,
morning.
Machatima Tova.
Practice
Sure,
this.
goodbye.
Just
Rega,
join
rega,
one.
rega.
Rega,
Rega,
rega.
practice.
Rega.
Wait a minute.
Just want to say to everyone that you will enjoy the restful
Masa-
day, and you will see a phenomena just in Israel that a lot of people, a lot of kids are on bicycles, scooters, and that's what you're going to see tomorrow.
From the window.
Enjoy.
From the window.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.